What's up, YouTube? Brian back for Stick and Pucksters. Today we're continuing off our Atlantic Division season preview, talking about the next three teams. We talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Boston Bruins in the last video. This one will be three more teams. My first prediction for one of the wild card spots is in this episode, as well as two other teams, the final two teams in the next video. So keep an eye out for that as well. Without further ado, let's jump into it. That's right. The Florida Panthers will be an Atlantic wildcard team this year. The Florida Panthers, in my opinion, have done more than enough to improve on what was a really kind of lukewarm team last year. They were good, but they just weren't good enough for a playoff spot. And they have some superstar guys on their team, and when I mean superstar, Barkov is becoming one of the best defensive centers, if not the best defensive center in the entire NHL. Jonathan Huberdeau, Aaron Ekblad, other guys, they have the pieces, and I think they've made enough big additions this year to really push them into the playoffs. Just a segue into that, key arrivals: Sergei Bobrovsky, Noel Acciari, Anton Strawman, Brett Connolly, and departures just being the coach, Roberto Luongo, and James Reimer. Obviously, the goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky, if he has a year like he has been having, he's won two Vezinas in his career. He's the biggest free agent acquisition this summer. An elite goaltender can turn your entire season around. If you don't believe me, just look at the St. Louis Blues from last year. The St. Louis Blues were last in the NHL come the turn of the calendar in 2019. Brought up Jordan Binnington, went on a crazy run, and then went to the Stanley Cup Finals and won. I just slammed my desk and my whole monitor went crazy. That's how much I believe in this. Goaltending is so critical. And what the Florida Panthers has done is they've given themselves a chance. They've set themselves up. Roberto Luongo and James Reimer just were not cutting it. Luongo was too old. Reimer's flaky at best. And then second biggest signing the Florida Panthers made this year was Joel Quenneville. Having Joel Quenneville and the experience that guy has, and the cups he has, and just the wins under his belt, he's the second most winningest coach in NHL history, is huge for a team like this. A young team in places that are really still developing and learning how to win. Coach Q will be an amazing addition for them this year. Plus depth guys like Anton Strawman, Noel Acciari, Brett Connolly that will stabilize their bottom six. The only question mark, I guess, going into the Panthers season this year is their defensive core, which doesn't look great. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great. Right now, their top six looks like this. It's Keith Yandle, Aaron Ekblad, Mike Matheson, Anton Strawman, Mackenzie Weegar, and Mark Pysyk. Is that good enough? Keith Yandle's real good. Aaron Ekblad, look for him to take a huge step this year. He's one of my big X factors. Anton Strawman could provide some stability, but it's not. No team is perfect, except maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning. But look for the defense to not be a huge issue. All right, moving on to the next team. Florida will make the playoffs this year as the first or second wild card. Could contend, depending on injury, for a top three in this division, but more than likely not, just a wild card. Next team we're talking about is the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal is a bubble team for me. I don't have them making the playoffs, but to be honest, this team will go as far as Carey Price will carry them. They're not amazing. They don't have any crazy superstars. They did try to pull the Sebastian Aho offer sheet. First time that's happened in a while. The offer sheet stupidity aside, because I think it was a stupid offer sheet and it was pointless, they haven't really made any huge additions to this team, so I don't think they're going to be in the playoffs this year. Additions they have made: Nick Cousins, Ben Sherratt, and Keith Kincaid, while losing Andrew Shaw, Antti Niemi, Jordy Ben, and Nicolas Deslauriers. Yeah, there's not much to say, really. Max Domi might be better. Jonathan Drouin is probably going to be better. We'll get a full season of Shea Weber. They didn't really do anything much. And maybe this is kind of one of those things, it's addition by subtraction. You don't have to, or addition by not doing anything. It's just letting your guys have a full season healthy. Guys like Kotkaniemi could make a little bit of a jump, I guess. But otherwise, pretty subpar offseason for Montreal. One guy I want to talk about that will probably make this team this year is Nick Suzuki. I watched him play a couple times as a member of the Guelph Storm, and let me tell you, Nick Suzuki has got some game. I almost swore. He's got a lot of skill. If he can produce at the NHL, then he can he's a smaller guy, but he's one of those stronger, like heavier bowling ball kind of guys, low center of gravity. If he could slide into Montreal's top 6 and produce that way, maybe Montreal improves offensively this year. And one other guy I want to talk about in Montreal is Victor Mete. Victor Mete has been this guy who just can't score for some reason. I don't understand. He only has a couple NHL goals, I think. It's just not good for him. Scratch that, sorry. He has 0 NHL goals through 120 games. That doesn't make sense. He's a skilled guy. He's quick. Look for him to maybe break out this season. He had 7 assists in his rookie year and 13 last year. Maybe this is the season where Victor Mete starts to produce offensively now that he's gotten used to the NHL. He's 21 now, so he's still young and has some learning to do. But Victor Mete is a guy I look to improve offensively for the defense of the Montreal Canadiens this year. This team looks pretty set. There's no RFAs that need to be signed. There's no crazy additions that need to happen. They have about $4 million in cap space. So they could go out and get another guy, free agency, maybe Patrick Marleau, or if they want to try to, I don't think they'll be able to, but I like Joe Thornton. I don't know, maybe make another addition through free agency, but as of today, they look like an outside of a playoff team looking in. The Buffalo Sabres are a weird one for me. The optimist in me wants to say that they've done enough to improve and they're going to contend, if not for a wild card, but to be at least a bubble team. But Buffalo, they made some really good additions. They brought in Ralph Kruger, I think is a really good coach for that team, as well as Marcus Johansson, Colin Miller, Jimmy Vesey, and Henry Yokiharu, who that last one I think is kind of an underrated steal of a trade in the offseason. They've only lost Jason Pominville so far, and if they can take advantage of the Detroit Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Ottawa Senators, then they have a chance. They need to win all the games against those teams. I don't think they're skilled enough to contend with Tampa Bay Lightning, Toronto Maple Leafs, or the Boston Bruins. Florida to an extent, but I don't think they'll have a lot of contention that way. The one guy on this team that, and I'm just waiting for him to have an incredibly dominant season, is Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel is going into the second year of that $10 million contract he signed. Last year he had 82 points in 77 games, only 28 goals. The year before, 64 in 67, 57, 56 points going back. I'm waiting for him to have that 95-plus point season. This year could be it, depending on how much chemistry he's going to still have with Jeff Skinner. And if their defense improves, I think their defense will lead to good offense this year. But for me, the Buffalo Sabres' biggest shortcoming right now is goaltending. Like I said with the Florida Panthers, goaltending wins you more games than any other position. And also loses you more games than any other position. If the Buffalo Sabres can get average to high quality goaltending from Ben Hutton or Linus Ullmark, depending on if he's ready to make the jump, then they'll be in contention for a wild card. Otherwise, this team's going to be in and around the Montreal Canadiens for not quite there to take that next step into the playoffs. One guy I keep hearing about, maybe it'll take until next year or the year after for him to come, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Lekkonen? It's too much Finnish in there. This guy is apparently one of the better goaltending prospects in the NHL, and if they can build up their forward depth and their defensive skill and the guys in front of the goaltender, and then he comes in and he's a top 10 goalie in the NHL, look out for Buffalo in 3 to 4 years. But for now, the Buffalo Sabres will not be a playoff team. They're just not good enough yet. We are actually going to end our Atlantic Division preview right here. This is the second part. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, thought it was helpful, please leave a like on the video down below. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to see me review the rest of the Atlantic Division as well as the other NHL teams in future videos, maybe hit that subscribe button. That'd be amazing.